To our Fargo Public Schools Board meeting this evening. We have lots of wonderful guests, so that's very exciting. Before we get started, I would like to just call your attention to what we have up here at our places. We commented on the beautiful artwork this time on display, which is all the work of our art faculty, our teachers. And so they have a statement on either their teaching or an artist statement in here. So thank you for supplying us with this. This is fantastic. Amazing talent. Fine artists teaching young artists. I love it. I would entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the order of agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. Thank you. I love this time of year when we get to see familiar faces. It's my pleasure to introduce our rep, our liaison on the Fargo Dome Authority, Nancy Jortheim, and the director of the Fargo Dome, Rob Sobolik. Welcome.
Thank you, Linda. And it's nice to be back. Although I do wish I was back yesterday when it was sunny and warm, and instead of whatever this is today. I am delighted to be your representative, as it were, or part of the community representation for the Fargo Dome. And my tiny partner here beside me, I'm here to make him look good. Actually, he's here to make me look good, is Rob Sobolik, who is the executive director of the Dome. Now, in the time that I've been on there, the very short time that I've been on there, as you know, we have transitioned from being a board that actually worked with an outside of Fargo agency to now he is an employee of the Fargo district, not the district, excuse me, the city of Fargo itself. That transition has happened. Lots of things have happened at the Dome. And how many of you have been there for an activity in the last month and seen the huge differential that's happened, which is in the screen. So that's the biggest physical change that's happened. But Rob's actually going to give you some of the data changes and things that have happened. So it's been my pleasure to work with him, almost as good as working with Dr. Schatz. How was that? I'll take my $5 later, okay? All right.
Thank you. As I get to work with Dr. Schatz too, I'm nowhere near as fun as working with him. I can tell you that right now. But thank you. Good, I guess, late afternoon. I appreciate the opportunity to come back to this group. Since our last visit in February, we've had a very, very busy year with the Fargo Dome already. A lot of great concerts, entertainment coming through with AC/DC, for Garth Brooks. Some of you, I'm sure, are fans of Justin Bieber. Great show. The recently completed Blake Shelton. Had a great year, obviously, in the midst of hopefully another very successful NDSU football season. So operationally, having a very, very good year already. Nearly 370,000 people have come through the doors at the Fargo Dome, and that's actually just through August. So that's up over 400,000 now with Blake Shelton and the September schedule. So great year, great operating revenues. As we get excess operating revenues, we also look to, just like this group and all the schools at you, when you have a little bit of extra operating revenues, you may try to find ways to spend that on operating expenses, different catch-up items here or there, so we continue to do that. And just working through and great things working with the school district on a lot of different events. Obviously, we've already hosted the state wrestling tournament. We've got the North Dakota High School state football tournaments coming up, the Dakota Bowl in November, as well as the North Dakota High School state volleyball tournament is coming back to Fargo. We hosted it in 2011 with the unfortunate situation that was happening in Minot at the time. But we were fortunate enough to have it, did a good job. So actually hearing that the state volleyball wants to come back to the eastern part of the state on a regular rotation. So looking forward to that. Obviously, Nancy mentioned the video boards, wrapping that project up. I've had great feedback with that. Still, when you go from, I believe it was 800,000 pixels of LED video to just over 8 million, it's a little bit of a challenge. But that project will come in around $7.2 million overall for that. Continuing to work with the Fargo Dome Authority and also the Fargo Moorhead Convention and Visitors Bureau to finish the convention center study that started in 2013 actually, so hard to believe it's 3 years ago. Finishing that with continuing to look at a potential different sites and get the data so that the city and the community leaders, stakeholders can make the right decision. When you're looking at spending that type of money, you want to make sure you have the data supported up. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot, other than if there are any questions that people would have.
That's great. Thank you, Rob, and thank you, Nancy. Anybody have any questions for Nancy or Rob, or comments? I have not seen the new boards yet, but Jim.
It's just a request. I've only been on this board a few years, but I notice every year you're kind enough to invite us as board members to a holiday open house, which you invariably schedule on the same Tuesday as a school board meeting. So I think, although it might upset some people that you now have to report to, if you could move it to Monday night of that week, most of us would be tickled pink and would be able to be there.
As most people would always do, they always want to put events when their superiors can't come. So it's a good suggestion. And I think you actually made that one in February too, Jim. I found that out when Nancy said, okay, here are the options to go to this Fargo school board meeting. When do you want to go? And I said, well, of the 4 you gave me, 3 of them are on Fargo Dome Authority meetings. So we better pick this one.
Yeah.
So.
We do appreciate the invite, and we appreciate all that you do.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Appreciate the time.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Great. Thanks for coming out on a blustery night, and it's always great to partner with you.
It will maybe not get better, so there you go.
We live where we live. Thank you. Okay, no one has signed up to speak, so we'll move right into staff reports and the FEA report. David.
I do not have a report tonight, so it's pretty short. Unless you have any questions or anything for me, that's all I have.
Great, so we're going on the no news is good news theory. Things are going well. Everybody's
As far as
settled
I
in.
know.
Great, great. Love that.
But yes.
Good. Anybody have any questions for Dave? Thank you. All right, we have lots of wonderful reports in store for us. Dr. Gross, you want to do the honors tonight?
Yes, thank you very much. 2 meetings ago, we had the principals from Fargo North, Fargo South, and Fargo Davies here to share information with you about their senior exit surveys and some of the other things that were happening in their buildings. At that time, we said that we would have a special presentation from Woodrow Wilson. So tonight, Mr. David Berkman, principal of Woodrow Wilson, is here to give you a program update about what's happening in the building and some of the data from their senior survey. So I'll turn it over to David.
Good evening. I'm just smiling because I don't know if it's good fortune or bad fortune, but you get me 2 months in a row. So good to be here tonight. With Dr. Gross's invite, the idea of this presentation is you get to know Woodrow maybe a little deeper or a little different than you knew us before. And the senior survey data that Davies North and South shared, you will see what our Woodrow data looks like as well. You see our motto at the top, something that just permeates what we are about, both at Woodrow and within Agassiz. There are 13 distinct programs, and we all share the same goal of being the safest, most welcoming, and accepting school. We have 3 R's at Woodrow. Respect, responsibility, readiness, and again, some concepts that permeate what we do and who we are at Woodrow. Just to give you a snapshot in terms of what is life like as a Woodrow student. Student A, Algebra 2.2 for 2.5 hours. That's Algebra 2 Semester 2. If you like math, it's a great day. It's 2.5 hours long. And then lunch, open lunch, and then in the afternoon, this student has a 2.5 hour English 3.2. At the top of the page, you see a AM1, AM2, PM1, PM2. Those are attendance reporting periods, but basically the whole morning is a 2.5 hour super block, and the afternoon is a 2.5 hour super block. Student B is taking a skinny that we offer in the afternoon. Skinny for Phi Ed, very fitting, I guess. Student C, another skinny that we're piloting this year is a guitar class. The student deciding to take guitar in the afternoon. Any questions on the student schedule piece? All right, I shall proceed. This is a slide from our orientation. Communicating to all of our new students, will you show respect to all others, fix mistakes you make along the way, and just reiterating to students that you don't have to be at Woodrow. It is a choice to come to Woodrow. 100% of the students have chosen to come to Woodrow. 100% of the staff have chosen to come to Woodrow. If you want to join us, respect is super important, and when we make our mistakes, fix them, and let's learn from them. So as a choice school, getting now more to the senior survey data, 62 graduates last year, 55 students took the survey, and you can see from within Fargo Public Schools which Davies North and South they had come from. And next is our ethnicity. And this is really a pretty accurate breakdown of not only the seniors last year, but who we are currently this year as well in all grades. We are the relationship school, and one of our pieces of relationship building is we have an advisory program. What's different about it is it's an advisory program for credit. DPI allows alternative high schools to offer a mentoring program that can lead towards high school elective credit. All Woodrow students are paired with an advisor who affectionately chases them around and tries to keep them on that path to success. Some recent graduation totals. And next up is a question that is one of my favorite ones to ask at a Woodrow orientation, which are every Monday at 3 o'clock, asking the students and parents who've come, hey, is a Woodrow diploma better, same, or worse than one from North, South, or Davies? Which really is a critical question, because if they're deciding to change schools, they should probably know the answer to that question. Answer, it's a high school diploma. Davies North and South high school diploma, Woodrow high school diploma. You get there in a different way, but it's a high school diploma. And next we'll start moving into our senior data based on this last statement that our Woodrow graduates are college, career, and life ready, indicating what they go on and do. And I guess I would just ask any questions on the data that you're looking at. That's a very good question. I think for a lot of students, they're just not willing to commit to what it might be. Fear of unknown, fear of if I say what it is, then maybe I'm going to commit to that. And maybe it's just a willingness not to commit until they know what they're going to be going off into. They're willing to articulate that. All right, continuing on. We do have the formal cap and gown ceremony, a few pictures from recent graduations. And going to some of our senior survey data. So agree or strongly agree, senior survey responses from Woodrow graduating class last year. And this would be agree and strongly agree. That's what the AAS say. So the numbers that you're seeing to the right, it's either students agreed or strongly agreed. I apologize, it's a little hard to see the black on brown with the light. So I guess reflecting on this particular slide, it's Woodrow Wilson, our alternative high school, the relationship school. This is what our seniors are saying about the experience that they are having at Woodrow. We also do an informal graduation walk. A majority of our classes are self-paced. When a student finishes a class, they conceivably, it could be their last class they finished today and they've met all graduation requirements. They would then do a informal graduation walk. We play the Legos theme, Everything is Awesome. If you're ever in Woodrow and you hear that happening and you're like, all right, there's a party somewhere over the PA. And then we gather all students up on the third floor hallway, the Woodrow space. We introduce the graduate and what their future plans are. Everybody claps and they walk down the hall and sign a scroll at the end. And I believe this student would have graduated last year in October, so we wouldn't have seen her again until May formal graduation. Going back to some more senior survey responses. And again, our Woodrow story of being the relationship school, trying to help students who have struggled get back on their feet. Volunteering important at Woodrow. Oddly enough, some of our favorite fans of being Agassiz partners with us would be Even Start preschool staff, early childhood preschool staff. We do a lot of coordinated events together where Woodrow students volunteer and take leadership roles with what we call the littles. So volunteering an important part of our work at Woodrow. And I believe this is the last senior survey slide data, and just copied from it. Positive relationship with teachers in my school, and 60% strongly agreeing, and then another 40+%, or right at 40% saying that they agree. One of our initiatives on the year, I'm not sure what level of training board has had on trauma training. Coming out of the ACEs studies, Adverse Childhood Experiences study. We're doing a pilot this year at Woodrow that we're calling ACEs. Well, if there's ACEs, what's the hope for the future for somebody who's had a lot of adverse childhood experiences? And we've coined the term ACEs that we're calling assets that endure strife, leading to a fulfilling life. This would be an example of a activity that we had all students participate in from ACEs. Giving them a big thought intended to increase the value that they place in themselves and others, taking from the Declaration of Independence, the "we hold these truths" lines, asking some important questions, and then leaving them with a parting proposal. Some excellent conversations came out of this particular activity. So as you hear about ACEs and trauma, at Woodrow we're working on our ACEs to develop these lifelong assets, helping students to discover their own assets. Second year of a pilot, there's always been honors programs in Fargo Public Schools. Why not honors at the alternative school? Since honors is set up in policy, it's very detailed on what is required of students. So we do not call it honors, we call it accolades at Woodrow. And we have a awards breakfast, and the certificate, 3+ on punctuality reliability points. When a student finishes a class, they get a 1, 2, 3, or a 4. If you got a 4, when it comes time for your 6-month raise, you're gonna get the whole 55 cents. You've earned it, you've exceeded. If you got a 3 for a course, that means you've kept your job. Probably not getting that 55-cent raise, but it might be 35-cent raise. If it's a 2, you probably are on the verge of losing your job, and if it was a 1, you finished the class, but if that was a job, you would have lost it. So this accolades at Woodrow, quality attendance, commendable scholarship, 2.8 GPA, which would be a B- level. 2.8 is also out of the Superintendent's Association. Redefining Ready is the GPA that is kind of the cutoff line for students to demonstrate that they are college ready. For some reason, 2.8 is a magical number. And respectful character.
2.8, is that based on their academic work at Woodrow, or is that their cumulative GPA from the start of their high school career, which may have been in a different building?
That would be for their Woodrow GPA.
Okay.
And the Superintendent's Association, the National Association, They would say 2.8 cumulative. So if we have students that have kind of been late bloomers as students that hit that in their last year or two at Woodrow, we're optimistic that they indeed are college ready. Last year, of the 180 or so students that we had go through Woodrow, we had 14 graduates with accolades, and we had 17 students hit the mark. This year, we're hoping we even can increase that. Accolade certificate. Just a couple of pictures of life at Woodrow. Again, as Dr. Gross had said, it's program updates. Counselor had a baby, so we had some activities with that. Staff caramel roll activity. Yes, that's a big piece of caramel roll dough. Congratulating Jennifer Free. Instead of a Woodrow graduation on the 3rd floor, everything was awesome, and Jennifer walked the 2nd floor for her United Way Woman of the Year award. A couple Halloween characters. And we had a nice event last year where we went to the state capitol, Bismarck State College, and I was able to spend some time with the governor. Just a terrific field trip. From the variety show last year, a staff skit spoofing on other staff. Those are actual bobbleheads, it's not Photoshop. So they were dancing to various tunes with the bobblehead faces on. Little nonsense. And just a picture of graduation luncheon that we have. I believe that is the end of just a snapshot of what life is like at Woodrow and what our seniors have said about their experience.
That was amazing. Any comments or questions? John?
I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'm so proud of our community. I'm so proud of what you guys have done there at Augustine Woodrow Wilson. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
David?
David, you said it's self-paced, but do they have a maximum amount of time they can spend in a class?
Our average last year was 29.8 days to finish a class. And if you did the math, 2.5-hour class at 29.8 days, we're probably at like 67, 68 hours. So it would vary from a few days less than 29.8 days to up to the mid-30s. We have some rusty students that clear and hard cut lines, we're shaking off the rust and helping them become more polished and finding success. So many times our newer starters, it might be 35, 36, 37 days as we're trying to help them find success.
Yep, sure.
The reason I ask that is I taught for a short period of time at Community High in West Fargo, and they had a very defined number of days. And if you didn't complete a class during that time, you repeated it. And they also had, if you were tardy or if you skipped a day or something, if you had so many, I can't remember, it's been a long time now, I can't remember how many hours it was. But if you reached that, you were basically booted out, and then you had to wait until there was an opening to get back in. We don't do that, do we?
I'll try to give a short answer on that one. For the student who is not attending or making progress, when we have students who want to get into Woodrow, you can lose your spot at Woodrow. Numerous advisor conversations, principal counselor conversations. It really takes quite a lot for a student to lose their spot at Woodrow. What I will say is that's the bad news part of it. The good news part is that we can get you started in about a week or two. 2 brand new classes. Let's try this again. Let's see what we learned from this unsuccessful start that we had.
Thanks again for everything you guys do. It's great.
Thanks for supporting us. I mean, this is a program that, we feel very proud about at Woodrow and at Agassiz, but honestly, as a district and as a board, you should feel very good about.
I have some folks are pretty close to me that this saved their life. So I was going to ask about the readiness for college and tech school. Do your students go to field trips? Do people come in? I mean, how do you kind of on-ramp them onto that next step?
I would say very similar to Davies North and South. We go to the college fair at Shields Arena. College reps come to Woodrow. We take field trips to a lot of the regional colleges and universities. Very similar to Davies North and South.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have school culture plans. And Dr. Gross, if you want to do the introductions again, please.
Oh, it'd be my pleasure. As you see on the agenda, this month we want to talk about positive school culture. And really, we're doing it in a combination of this meeting and the next board meeting. I think you heard from Mr. Berkman what they are doing at Woodrow Wilson when it comes to climate and culture and making a difference in the lives of the students that they have the opportunity to serve. Tonight, Mr. Cody is here to share about some of the things that are happening at Davies High School. And then at your next meeting, we will have a middle school principal and an elementary principal share with you some of the things that they are doing. All of these decisions are based upon the use of data, working with staff, coming up with these plans to make sure that we are making the experience for our students and staff as meaningful and as warm and welcoming as possible. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Cody.
Thank you. I echo David's thoughts. You get to see me 2 months in a row, and as I told you last month, I think I'm the new kid on the block, so I get this awesome opportunity. But I enjoy speaking on behalf of our students and our staff at Davies High School, and that's a tough act to follow. And as a building principal, I hope that we as a district and you as a board understand the work that David and his team do at Woodrow Wilson High School and the Agassiz building. I can speak with regards to what you said, Linda, not from a parent perspective, but as a building principal. There's nothing more gratifying than to be able to sit across the table from parents and from students and say, you know, we do have another option. And I just hope that our community honestly sees the benefit and the impact that Woodrow High School has on our students. And so, David, thank you for your work and the team that you do. So I get to speak a little bit from the Davies High School perspective on the strategic initiative of positive school culture. And I'm sure we're all well aware of it, that I know this is near and dear to our superintendent's heart. And I hope that you guys understand as well. As I found out as an early principal, that school culture and climate is something that is constantly got to be on the forefront of your thinking. It is a part of every conversation that you need to have. And let's remind one another that school culture is a group's shared belief, customs, and behavior. It's positive and nurturing school culture will be the outcome of our school's efforts. Each school maintains a culture plan to support student learning, character development, and cultural proficiency. And so at Davies High School, I trust that you're aware of a few of the things that we've done. If not, I'm going to share a little of those. But there's a school culture grant process that we as principals have the ability to apply. There's a small form that we fill out, and we provide some details to Dr. Gross as who approves mine, and just share some of the highlights that I believe that the cultural dollars will flow to the building and then, in a sense, would help support financially some of the things that we're trying to do. I'm just going to share a few of the highlights that we did most recently at Davies High School. We do an annual senior class retreat. The focus of this retreat is just to focus on the fact that we want you to finish strong. We bring in an outside speaker where they do some icebreaker activities. They really get to circle around one another. They stress really the context of as seniors, together everyone achieves more. And they're able to share a few of their forgivenesses and things to that nature. And we really, most recently, other schools do the same thing, but they do it in the spring. I've chosen to do it in the fall because as we surveyed our seniors, they really appreciated it. It's got our school off to a great banging start, and they've been able to really set the culture for our younger classmen. We then go back to our English classrooms, and we ask the seniors to just do a small writing prompt and just to share a few things in the takeaways. And really some of the things that come out of those writing prompts are really phenomenal. Another thing we do is we work with our freshmen, and we work with the concept of You Matter. We take an afternoon and we break the first half of the alphabet in, and we bring them into the back in the gymnasium. We really try to stress a culture of respect. There's, again, some icebreaker activities. Some of them probably seem a little cheesy, but really within the first 15, 20 minutes, they're really let their guards down, and they really, I think, get a sense of what we're trying to do. This is where we also strategically involve our student council and our SHAPE members. Really, when we think about what are those SHAPE members, it's students honoring the achieve the pursuit of excellence, and it's our activities folks. And so we really try to demonstrate a leadership model for those freshmen. Then just as we continue down that process, we also have this concept where we really work with our freshmen, and it's not just a freshman concept, it's a building-wide, but we analyze this concept of think. And if you've seen that poster, think, is we really talk about students and their social media posting, that we really want you to think about, is it true? Is it helpful? Is it necessary? And is it kind? And the I is the inspiring part of it. And so when we think about really all of that social media piece, that really is what we do and target in our freshman retreat. The third item that I wanted to share with you a little bit too is this year we brought in a national anti-bullying speaker. And I was able to, as a principal, you get a lot of things and a lot of requests. Can we speak to your kids? Can we speak to your kids? And you really got to, I think, be specific about which ones you really want to target. And this year, we brought in Josh Dreen, and he's a national speaker. He spoke to national FBLA conferences, national FCCLA, comes really highly regarded. He was speaking in a local district, and I was able to get him at a reduced cost, which was phenomenal. And he really brought a positive message. He talked about REP, the R-E-P. Represent yourself, represent your family, your school, and your community. And again, with that, he really talked about motivating yourself to truly be yourself, supportive of one another, and really hammering home the concept that kindness really does matter. The following week, in all cases, we asked, again, students to just write a quick writing prompt. And we said, what are 1 or 2, 3 takeaways from that particular day? What is something specifically you will incorporate or do as a result of attending today's conference? A lot of times we don't want these to be one-hit wonders, right? We bring the people in and then they're gone the next day. And the nice thing about Josh is in December, he sends just little 60-second clips. And then we'll put that out to our students and our staff, and he'll just say, hey, Davies High School, remember my time there, and what are you doing to fire up, and don't forget the message. And then there's a small little question along the way. So that was one of the things that really drew my attention to his, is there's a follow-up to it. And so that, again, is something that is important. And then the last thing we asked him is, how could today be a little bit better? And so those are just really 3 concepts that we talk about. And as we find about school culture, you can never let your guard down. And it needs to be a constant conversation. And this is not just staff and students. This is administration and how they treat the teachers, and the teachers and how they treat the staff, and the staff how they treat the kids. And this is custodians, and this is cooks, and this is attendance folks, and this is office personnel. Because inside of school culture, as you can see, it can change in a heartbeat. And so it is a constant conversation on my mind, and it's something that I have learned over the course, some good, some bad, that school culture is absolutely critical. And so with that in mind, if there's questions, I'd love to field them. But I did bring a little snapshot of Josh's day. But before we go there, are there questions or comments that you would have? Okay.
Ladies, what's up? Teachers know how to dance.
1,200 Davies High School students may have a different perspective on bullying tonight. The school hosted nationally known speaker Josh Dreen, who tries to reach young adults in a different way. He uses beatboxing, stories, and mascots to help students develop empathy, resiliency, and self-respect. Dreen hopes to eliminate bullying through a positive perspective.
You focus on the negatives, a lot of times the results are negative. There are a lot of anti-bullying programs that focus on the negatives, the suicides, the scare tactics, and they're not working. So I come in with a very positive message. We have fun, we tell stories, and hopefully we can teach them that you can have fun and respect each other at the same time. Davies High, they give them laptops. Not fair. Hold up. You probably couldn't tell, but this was the kid in the Angry Bird. Some of the best dancing I've ever seen. Dancing with the Stars, peeps. If you're watching this, B-Boy Flapjack right here. Give him a follow, shout out. Thank you very much, I appreciate it. See you guys.
Travel safe.
Thank you very much. I know you can't feel the energy in a vlog. A couple videos isn't gonna do it justice. Davies High School, that was one of the most energetic and fun presentations that I have ever given.
So just with that in mind, I hope that, these are happening in all your buildings across the district. They really are, and I feel honored that I'm able to share our story. But I will tell you this, that building a solid school culture is something that is so very important to me, because I know that this year we are off to such an unbelievable start. Again, it could change in a heartbeat, and I better knock on wood, but all across our school, I mean, our teachers are saying it, and our students and our staff, but it is just something that's so critical, and I hope that you guys understand that as a board, you should be super proud of every single one of our schools, because this is something, as Dr. Schatz has said to us as principals, is that school culture, everything starts right there in that. And that's why it's one of your strategic initiatives that I'm sharing with you tonight, so. Questions?
Thank you. Yeah, any questions or comments? Yes, Jennifer.
I'll just make a comment. I want to applaud you on your efforts. I believe that this, sets you up for excellence, right? And I saw your video posted online months ago. I don't know if you brought it to share.
Our happy video? I didn't.
Yes, your
No.
happy video, and
No, I
I
couldn't.
found myself watching it multiple times, laughing, thinking, this would be a very fun place to work. So I just have to say, congratulations
Thank you.
on that.
Thanks.
And as a parent of a Davies student, I would like to commend you as well, because my daughter comes home and you can feel the culture when she's coming home and bringing it home with her. So thank you.
Anyone else? Well, you mentioned Dr. Schatz and the priority that he set. I have to just briefly recall that when we hired him as superintendent, and he would, as he still does, have individual lunches or meetings or whatever, and so I'm going to my first lunch with him, and one thing that I really think is important is school culture. And whoa, I got about 30 minutes later, I kind of got an earful. It's like I didn't realize how much of his personal specialty that was, and to see that then put into action in every single one of the school buildings and the kind of priority that's been placed on it, it's just really inspiring. And you can tell when you go in a building, and so actually on my visitations this year, my liaison visits, I've specifically asked to focus on their particular school culture this year. So thank you for everything you're doing at Davies. It looks amazing.
Appreciate it.
Can you tell the difference, every year as you're putting more emphasis on it, how does it change the school experience for you as a principal, and how would you see in your students and your teachers?
Well, first of all, it takes effort, and I found out the hard way, and I'll be the first to admit that this is, you can't take it for granted. It's like building a foundation, and as I get further into my career, it's just about conversations. It is about building relationships, and this is a motto that I used a couple years ago and have constantly reminded our teachers. You have to build relationships one student at a time. And I think I've mentioned to you guys before, on any given day at Davies High School, if we take the students plus the adults, we're around the 32nd largest city in the state of North Dakota. And I say that from a standpoint of not that, look at us, it's hard work. And it starts with myself really funneling that into the administration team, and these are the things that I firmly believe in, and that we need to be successful. The fact that if you listen to what David, and he says I steal things from him, and he's dealing with a much smaller clientele, but the fact that I can look a student into the eye and flat out tell them that you matter, and you look at that 9th grade retreat. And I tell you, I'm looking forward, David, to getting you out this year just to maybe, and that was one of the, hopefully the times that we can look at that, just because when you can see that in the kids. A few years ago, I know when Robin was on the board, we got her out to take a look at some of the things going on in our ELL program. There are so many different things going on, but it takes a conscious effort. And it's a word that I use with our staff is an intentionality. You need to be intentional. This is nothing that you can take for granted. Each and every day, we got kids walking through our doors that are hurting and that are joyful and all across the board. And so it's just, it takes effort to look them in the eye and say, you matter, you care enough to ask the question of the students. And I suppose some staff get a little bit bored because it's a constant conversation. But as I said, it takes really intentional effort, Linda. It really does. And it just, it's something that you just simply can't let slip by. And I hear it quite a bit from our boss up front. So, and if it's important to him, it's clearly important to me as well. And I see the benefits from it as well, too.
Well, it's just amazing to see it unfold. So thank you for that.
We got a great school. We really do. And I hope our general public get an opportunity to support us in that way, too, as well.
Indeed. Thank you. And Dr. Gross and Mr. Williams with our ELL program.
Certainly. Well, first of all, I also want to thank both David and Troy for coming and sharing. I think you saw two shining examples of things that are happening in our buildings across our system. And the next time you are together, you're going to see two more great examples of how culture is at the forefront of what we do. Although that's four, you could go to any of our buildings and you have a similar presentation with similar excitement. Because Mr. Cody said it, things like this are happening across the entire system, and it's our students who benefit and it's our staff who benefit. So thank you very much. Next on the agenda is to continue giving you some information. And for those of you who have not had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Vince Williams, I wanted to introduce you to him. He is our new director of our EL program, and he is here to share some information, an overview of the students that we started the school with, how that has transitioned a little bit, some of the programming that happens in the Fargo Public Schools, but more than anything, just give you the opportunity to meet our new director. So I'll turn that over to Vince.
Wonderful. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Dr. Gross is going to pass out some handouts. Once everyone has their handouts, we'll get started. Thank you. Once again, my name is Vincent Williams. I am the Fargo Public School District's new EL coordinator, and I am also Woodrow Wilson's assistant principal. But I'm here today to present information about the EL program. So we'll get started. Our program is basically, it consists of a four-stage process. We have identification of students, and that's, we have a universal screener where every new student who enrolls in Fargo Public Schools, they take a home language survey to determine if any other language besides English is spoken in their home. And if so, we can then go to step 2, which is the assessment. We will model assess them. I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous. This is my first board meeting. Okay, strike that from the record. Okay. And then we would model assess the students to determine what their language proficiency is, and we assess them in reading, listening, speaking, and writing. And depending on their score, we go to stage 3, which is the placement. And once they're placed, we annually assess them using our access assessment. And if the students score a 5 or above, or a 3.5 in each of the 4 domains, they are then exited from the program, and we would monitor them for 2 years. So that's the 4-stage process that we go through. Next are the student demographics and the numbers. You have a handout. Those are the current numbers of the EL students that we're currently servicing in the Fargo Public School District. At the elementary level, we have 471 students being served. Middle school, we have 130. And at the high school level, we have 207 students currently being serviced. So that gives us a total of 808 students who are receiving EL services for the Fargo Public School District. Based on that, when we look at the demographics of the 808 students, 23% of our students are Bhutanese, 15% Somali, 11% Liberian, 9% Spanish-speaking, and 8% are Iraqi students. Of the 808 students, 47% are refugee students, considered refugee students. 39% are U.S. born, and 17% of those students are immigrants. Our staffing, we currently have 27 EL teachers. All are certified in their content area as well as they have their EL endorsement. We have 7 paraprofessionals, 4 of which are bilingual. We have 3 social workers who are amazing at their jobs. We have 1 office administrator and 1 coordinator. The services we provide at the elementary level, our teachers can either pull out or push in. For the most part, we are pulling out students to provide them with the services that they need. At the secondary level, we offer sheltered instruction. At the middle school, that's in math, reading, language, and we also offer a resource. And at the high school level, we have sheltered instruction in English, science, math, and social studies. And the community connection piece, we partner with Lutheran Social Services. Once a month, I go over and meet with the new Americans and present information about the Fargo Public School District, tell them what they can expect as far as classes or how to dress during winter and what have you, and just basically answer any questions that they may have. We also do a cultural corner where we try to present information about the different cultural activities that are happening in the community, as well as providing information to all stakeholders as to what we can do as a community to better service our EL students. We also have parent groups. Our social workers are working with their prospective buildings to meet with parents to help them with any of their needs that they have so that they can help their sons and daughters be academically successful. And we also have Learning by Doing. This is a summer program where we try to get students out into the community, whether it's taking them to a restaurant to learn how to read off a menu or taking them to the zoo and what have you. So that's the EL program in a nutshell. Are there any questions for me?
Good job. Jim.
Oh, that was brutal. I'm sorry. I apologize.
You're just great. You are
Vince,
just great.
you are doing great, trust me. You know, I'm kind of curious. I realize, I think you said that once somebody exits the program, we kind of keep an eye on them for a couple of years.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, we keep an eye on them until they graduate, but more so just to make sure they're staying on track. Any idea how many students have went through the program that are still in the district that are no longer counted in these numbers, that have actually exited out?
I currently do not have that information, but I can get it for you.
I just think it would be interesting because I think we're having tremendous successes. And I'm not under any illusion that just because they were able to exit the EL program that we don't still have some real learning issues that we have to address with those students. But I do know the funding disappears when they leave that classification. So I was just curious. No big rush on it, because you have more important things to do, like work with those kids.
Dr. Gross?
And that number will certainly vary from year to year based upon the population that we have. But truly, if you think about an additional 400 students or so, I know when Dr. Schatz presents in the community and shares information, a lot of times we talk about 1,200 students or so. That includes students who are actively receiving services and then those that we are monitoring along the way. Now, if you go beyond those 2 years, you'd even have additional students who are there. But approximately 400 students in that monitoring process.
Anyone else? Yeah, Brandy.
Thank you so much. I personally know him, and my children had him, so I know he's doing a fabulous job. And thanks for taking this over.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Dr. Schatz?
First of all, I want to thank Vince for having the courage to stand here tonight. You did a nice job, thank you. And I know that's your first go-around, but excellent work, and he's doing a super job. I did want to mention this, and that since there's been a lot of talk about funding and those types of things, that when you look at the social workers, we have a third social worker. We have that because in the last legislative session, Senator Flacco wrote a bill, and it was supported, to provide additional dollars to the larger school districts who have the highest numbers of EL students. And so we were able to secure a third social worker for that and a couple of other support type positions. And so the additional dollars above and beyond what we received through the weighted foundation aid payments was about $200,000 each year. And so that funding this year, it was a 2-year grant, and we'll see what they're doing in the future here with the legislature. There's talk of building that into the foundation aid weighted formula that we use. And so hopefully the state will be able to support that. But I just wanted to mention that with all the talk about, the state needs to do more and the feds need to do more and all those things, we've had a good conversation with our legislators, and they have listened, and we are starting to see some additional dollars. So I want to give them credit for that, because that's an important piece to continually working in a positive environment with our leaders to ensure that we can continue to try to find additional resources when they're available. So kudos to you, Vince, for your start. You're doing a great job, and thanks for everything you're doing.
Can I say one last thing?
Absolutely.
I take our district's mission statement to heart, achieving excellence by educating and empowering all students to succeed. I think it entails the student who needs alternative education, the student who needs mental help, and it also entails our students who are new to this country as well. So, thank you.
I have just one question. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I know you're new in this position this year, and as you familiarize yourself with the program, the teachers, the students, what strikes you? Do you feel like things are off to a good start this year? What are some of the things you see that strike you?
I think things are off to a good start. I think our mainstream teachers are seeking professional development to provide more services for our EO students. So, the burden shouldn't fall solely on our EO teachers, and the mainstream teachers are recognizing that, and they want to help. So,
great. Well, thank you for your leadership, and thank you for being here tonight. Great. I think we'll do the next thing and then go on a break after that. So Dr. Schatz is going to give us some information on the upcoming State of the Schools event and our role in it and what to expect. So Dr. Schatz.
Okay, if you would allow me to also just bring to your attention the annual report that we placed for you in your pile of information tonight that you had at your table. This is the new annual report. It reflects data and information from last year. That's how we do this. In the August and September time, Betsy and Anne Marie are busy, along with Lisa and their team, gathering information and looking at how we can update this. This is an award-winning report for this group, and we started this 4 years ago, and so I will tell you it's very comprehensive. And if you're looking for information on Fargo Public Schools, you can find a great deal of it right here. And so we present that to you for your information and to use as a guide when you're looking for information about programs and what we do and successes we had last year, all those types of things. So just wanted to mention that, and that's online. We'll be sending it out to legislators. We make it available in a lot of different places for people. And so anyways, that just is what we have now. Moving forward, on November 3rd, as you know, we're going to do our first ever State of the Schools, if you will, address. And the idea behind that concept, and you have these documents in front of you, was to give a state of the state, if you will, of the school district. A lot of that will be coming from the annual report. We have your president, Linda Boyd, will do a welcome and introductions. I will do a PowerPoint presentation, much like I've been doing recently with lots of different presentations with added things for this particular evening. And then the idea of discussion groups or focus groups, as we gather people that are willing to come to this event through soliciting that through our principals to gather parents and those types of folks, we are also soliciting anybody in the community who would like to attend. And so you also have before you not only the agenda but a listing of all the different things that we're doing to promote this event, and that will start this week. And so the idea here again is to try to get 200 people to this event. There will be 3 questions that we're going to pose to those folks for the focus groups. One of the questions will be dealing with the strategic initiative behind project-based learning, 21st century skills, and the 4 C's. We'd like to get feedback on that, and so we'll be posing that question. There will be a question that we are posing on transportation. I've asked Brock to get the background information on all that we're doing with transportation and to come up with a question that he would like to get information back from our citizens with regard to the standard of effort that we're providing and whether or not that is adequate or whether it's too much or whether we should do something different. But anyways, we can gather information on that topic. And you know what? I am blanking on the third one that we're working on right now. Oh, I just said transportation. Class size. Perfect. Started at 7 o'clock with the presentation, so this morning. So class size, and that comes directly from our facilities report. And so what we would like to do is to have that conversation with the folks that show up to talk about what our current standards are for that within the facilities plan and whether or not that's adequate or whether we should do something different or consider some other things. And then the thing about that is gathering information from that will allow us then to discuss that and look at the renewal of the facilities plan, which happens in January. So it's a timely kind of thing. The purpose of this event, again, is to provide people an opportunity to have these focus groups and give us some feedback on these topics. The extent as to how that information is used, it will be determined by what we see. And I think it'll just provide us some good guidance for the future. So the idea is that each question would have about 20 minutes, so that would be an hour of time. We're asking each board member and all of our administrators to be in attendance. I know that we have one conflict, so I know that one person can't be there from the board. But you will be placed as a moderator, if you will, a leader of the group to lead the questions and the discussion. We'll be supporting you with a support person to be there for you, a reference person. And also we'll have a recorder this time, and the recorders are going to do it electronically. We're going to have computers, and so they will capture the essence of the conversation. We'll be asking those reporters, along with those people leading the discussions, to ensure that they have captured the main points that are being made within the discussion by at the end of each question by asking everybody and reading out, this is what we're recording. So we make sure we capture that. And then what we're going to do is the next day after the event, we're going to send a survey out and ask people about their experience at this event. And within that survey, we're also going to ask for one big idea. So that way we can have that electronically transposed to us. And so what we're going to ask the leaders of the group to do is to remind people that tomorrow you'll get a survey. We want you to fill it out. And we want you to also give us your one big idea for the district. That way we don't have to have any kind of paper responses. We can get that through SurveyMonkey. We can easily collate that and take all those answers and bring them together. So in the end, you have 4 different types of feedback loops that we'll be getting from that. So we're pretty excited about that. So we continue to work and gather names. And again, as we now go out and advertise this, people who want to register. And if somebody shows up that night and also wants to be part of it, they certainly can. We'll be prepared to put them in a group, give them a packet of information. The idea here is to try to give some background information to people prior to coming so that when they come, they're prepared with the information they need to have a thoughtful discussion. And so we did this once before. We're following a lot of the same things that we did before, added a few new things and a few new twists, and I think it'll be good. So having said that, that's what we have planned.
Thank you. And remind me, and Anne Marie, I think you were probably the one who put this together, but when the packet of information came out ahead of time, and in the version that board members received, I believe there was some sort of kind of short instruction form of what our role was and how to start the discussion and what to remember to do. And so we're not going in completely stone cold. You'll have that again for us?
Yes, there'll be information provided to you ahead of time that has a listing of your roles and responsibilities for each of those roles that Dr. Schatz described, the facilitator, the resource person, and the recorder. So we were just working on that today, actually. So that will be provided to you in advance.
Great, thanks. And thank you for this detailed communication plan. That's very impressive. Anybody have any questions or comments? All right, looking forward to it. This is going to be great. I think we'll take a short break and we'll come back and finish the rest of our items. All right, we'll continue with the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion for approval.
I move to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the items on the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried, thank you. GP 8E policy changes. What you have in front of you is a pretty basic change. As we discussed last time, the Communications Committee had reviewed when we do the monitoring and recommended that we move those into May and June, and that is the change that you see on the GP schedule. So unless there are any, I would entertain a motion.
I have discussion. after the
Okay,
motion is
are
seconded.
you going to move, are you making the motion?
I'll also make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the changes to GP 8E. Any discussion? John?
And I don't know if this is the time to discuss it or if it's more appropriate when we're discussing EL 8. But one of my notes, I believe it was that one, was that it seems it would make sense to be reviewing EL 8, which covers things that would be reviewed in our annual audit, to after that audit is issued. So we have something to evaluate in here. And so I wonder if we should amend this, if I can amend this, or if we need to send this back to governance to discuss this.
I think we would send that back to governance, which is perfectly fine. So Anne Marie, if you would make a note of that, unless we have, Jim?
Just one thing. John, you are aware of the fact we actually do these three twice, right?
Yeah, I am aware of that.
And so one does come after the audit. One is kind of mid-year cycle, but doesn't mean we can't talk about where we'd move them to. Are you suggesting we go to just once?
I think we should discuss that. I don't know. I like the transparency that doing this twice brings. I don't know if there's enough of a track record now with the superintendent and business manager that that's still necessary. And I do think the second one, the second review does come after the audit, but it comes well after the audit. And if we just moved this timing back to maybe November or that meeting in December, reading that audit is expected in November, we would have a little more fresh in our memories as we're evaluating this, is what I'm considering with this. Which would still then, if we move that, to move the second review then maybe to April or May, and then we'd have kind of an end of year evaluation.
Well, it sounds like there's enough food for discussion, so I would suggest we discuss this at governance and see if it's, take a closer look, get in the weeds a little bit with it, and then see if there is a change that we would recommend bringing forward. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Okay.
If nothing else, just to reaffirm the place where it is, or if there's a desire to change it, we certainly can. But we'll dig into the details of that particular EL at governance.
So then the point of order would being, we have a motion on the floor. Does that need to be amended to send this back to governance, or?
We don't need to put that in the motion. We
Okay.
just send things to committee when they come up.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Great. Anne Marie, if you would call the roll, please.
Ani,
Yes.
Benson,
Yes.
Goldenberg,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Paulson,
Yes.
Rodenbiker,
Yes.
Ulrich,
Yes.
Boyd.
Yes. Motion is approved. So we'll move on to policy monitoring, EL 7, EL 8, and EL 9. I would entertain a motion, I guess, to take these together. Jim?
Yeah, I move we accept the monitoring reports on EL 7, EL 8, and EL 9 as provided in our packet, making note that the one item will be talked about at governance.
Second.
We have a
discussion on that as well.
Yep, we have a motion and a second to approve the monitoring of EL7, EL8, EL9. Any discussion? John?
I just wanted to point out that I had made a note on, it was, which one, EL9? Discussing asset protection. Nothing in this mentions really anything about information or cybersecurity. And I think that is something now that we need to be paying attention to as the board. I've read several things in various trades about the importance of it and that it is a board responsibility. And I'm worried about, should we have a data breach or some incident, a public defacing of our website, the damage that it could do to our reputation, our legal liabilities, something that we need to take a look at. And so I am going to be meeting with Mr. Westrick tomorrow to have a discussion about where are we at, some further discussions about maybe what, draft some memo to us about what maybe we need to be looking at, what our concerns might actually be. And I think there's some other concerns Brock maybe brought up about do we need to have cyber rider on our liability insurance? And so there's some, I think we need to dig into it a little bit.
Thank you. I know this is your wheelhouse, so thank you for kind of digging into that. And are you seeing this is, and maybe Dr. Schatz and Brock have something to say about this too, it sounds like there's some operational elements to this as well as some oversight elements, Dr. Schatz?
Well, I can tell you that when John had contacted me and I said that I think it would be good for him to get together with Bill because Bill and he can talk about this, can see what level we're at. Obviously, John has a great level of expertise here and he brings up some really good points. So I think we let that meeting occur. And then from that, it could come from us as administration as a recommendation. John could do it as a report. And then we could decide, what's our next steps? Do we create some other policies? Do we actually do something different than what we're doing? But it's a great first step. And so again, to use his expertise would be very helpful. I know that Bill's already on the ball with a lot of things, but this can really be a good review.
One recent thing that I read from the Institute of Internal Auditors and a trade group called ISACA, it is imperative that the board not relegate the cybersecurity topic to the IT department.
Well, it sounds like this is an excellent start, so, and bringing it to the board level is good. So we'll wait and see what comes forward from that, and then we'll take it from there in terms of board involvement.
The only thing I would add, and I think you would agree, John, is that you're right on. However, it'll be IT that would have to do the work if we're doing something different.
Absolutely,
And
yes.
so it's
Yep,
a collaboration.
yes,
And
exactly
we're working
right.
together, but
Yes.
it's an important thing, I think, as John brings up, that the board is on board with this, if you will, and that, you're there every step of the way. So this is great. I think it'll be good for us.
And there's absolutely no expectation that every board member needs to become a cybersecurity expert.
That's why we have you.
Wasn't planning to, thank you. That's why people like you walk the earth, that's how I think of it. Any other questions or discussion on the motion on the floor? Anne Marie, if you would please call the roll.
Benson.
Yes.
Goldenberg.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes.
Paulson.
Yes.
Rodenbiker.
Yes.
Ulrich.
Yes.
Ani.
Yes.
Boyd.
Yes, motion carried, thank you. We are to board reports. I don't think I've ever started with Brandy, so we'll start with you and go this way.
Okay, last night I went to South High for the PTA meeting and Dr. Schatz did the presentation on the mill levy and it was excellent. I walked away actually knowing something about this now. No, I knew something about it, but it's just, a lot easier to understand in it. And once he did leave, there was quite a bit of a topic about that. So I think there's people out there definitely wanting to be educated and wanting to educate their parents and older people on what actually is, going to be happening. And so I think that was really, really nice. And I, of course, got talked into being a chaperone. No. Then what they're thinking about doing is bringing back something that used to be really big at South. They're not sure if it's going to be a go-ahead or not. And they're going to be having a dance of some sort. So I did say that I was going to chaperone and then, of course, talked my husband into probably joining me. So it was very fun. And they appreciated it. So that's actually, I have a scheduled visit also with South High I'm going to be shadowing a student in November. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you. Christy?
I had the pleasure yesterday of going to Claire Barton and listening to a presentation by our superintendent. And great presentation as well, great handout. And I ran into a couple teachers last night after the presentation at a football game. And they both said they have learned a lot. And the one in particular said, I could listen to him talk 3 more times, and each time I will pick up something new. And this is critical, and we need to make sure that the people know how critical it is. And so she was very appreciative and is looking forward to getting out there and helping and really rallying those troops.
That's great, thank you. David?
I have a visit with Troy down at Davies coming up this week, and other than that, I think that's about it.
Great, thank you. Dinah?
I guess we're all a broken record because I've been to CBE and Lincoln staff meetings this week with Dr. Schatz, and again, well received and good questions. And I have my CBE liaison half-day, three-quarter day on.
Jim?
Planning met. Basically, we spent most of our time really kind of reviewing the presentation that Dr. Schatz and his team has put together on the mill levy, just to make sure the planning committee understood what was going on there too. And our next meeting is going to be on November 4th, I believe at 7:30, right down in this room, which everybody's welcome to join us. I think that's it.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Communications met yesterday, and you heard a little bit about what we talked about from Dr. Schatz's report about the November 3rd community focus group and the questions. There was some discussion around that and ways of soliciting feedback. The school talk distribution, we talked about sending to local legislators, and it sounds like Anne Marie is going to start doing that after the election in November, as well as the form for the outside liaison assignment review. Thank you, Anne Marie. There are 4 questions now that we have to answer for those on an annual basis, and that's it. Our next meeting is November 14th.
Great, thank you. John?
Excuse me while I pull up my notes. I attended the October 4th Chamber Eggs and Issues, which was focused on tax policy. And the maybe something for the Governmental Affairs Committee to start perking their ears up at. The legislature is reviewing the almost 24 tax incentive programs that the state has on the books. And in particular, Renaissance zones and tax increment financing came up quite a bit. And mentioned in that was schools and all taxing authorities' responsibilities with that. And so that might be up for review, that might be changing, and so we need to keep our eyes on that, I believe. Did I say that right, Brock? You were there. And yeah, okay. This past Saturday, I went on a little adventure and visited the Sacred Stone, aka No Dapple protest site out south of Mandan. And I'm still processing it, really. It was really quite incredible. The self-organization that's happened out there, it's really turned into a small city. Rebecca was there along with me, and I'm sure she has her own perspective on it. I was really interested in kind of the logistics of it. How do you keep several thousand people in this one big camping area happy and fed and deal with waste and water and all of that, and they figured it out. And they're getting ready for winter. There used to be a bunch of pup tents out there. We saw those coming down, and teepees going up, semi-permanent structures going up. When we got there, there were, I think, 2 or 3 dozen horses riding out, accompanied by a prayer, and they're riding up to visit the Fort Berthold and that reservation. The Comanche tribe from Oklahoma had arrived, and they were received by the camp leadership. Members of the Aztec Nation arrived and were welcomed in their traditional dress. I met people from every state, from North Dakota down to Texas and over to the coast, from Canada and Mexico. They had a learning tent set up for the kids, lined with shelves full of workbooks, and apparently they were receiving regular instruction during the day. There was a huge focus on everybody that I talked to there at the camp that day, and it was signs every place of it being a peaceful place, a place of prayer, and that they were technically in a ceremony while there. It was incredible. I thought it was really interesting too because last year I read a book called Encounters at the Heart of the World by a woman named Elizabeth Fenn. It's really about the Mandan people of North Dakota who lived in that same area along the Missouri River at the confluence of the Heart River, Cannonball, the Knife River, all along the Missouri there. And it's interesting that it was just Indigenous Peoples Day yesterday, and so it made me really kind of reflective about that. In 1492, there were 12,000 Mandan, just the Mandan, in that spot on the river. There were Hidatsas to the north, the Rickaras, Cree, the Dakota people and Lakota people were all over the prairie. And in the 2010 census, there were 350 full-blooded Mandan people. So I'm still processing it. I wanted to share my experiences with that. I'm sure Rebecca has something to say about it. It also made me think about, my role now with the Fargo Public Schools and helping lead education here in North Dakota. I grew up around the Devil's Lake area, and the education of Native American kids in our state is rocky and not great. And I encourage everybody tonight to maybe Wikipedia American Indian boarding schools and the Fort Totten Historic Site and learn a little bit about the history of Native American children's education in our state and reflect on that and our roles here in Fargo Public Schools. 3% of our kids here are Native American, or that identify as Native American. It's about 300, 350. We maybe have a handful of teachers that identify as Native American.
That's something that we do have some programs and specific, and maybe that's something that we can learn about in the months to come.
Absolutely, and they had some programming yesterday. That was great. So
Thank you.
it was a very reflective weekend and timing, so thank you for your time.
Thank you. Rebecca.
All right. Well, John gave a very accurate report regarding the trip out to the Sacred Stone Camp. And I wanted to go myself just because, my own interest, but also serving on the Native American Commission. I guess I felt like it was my responsibility to go and to learn and to see. And it was, I'm processing it. It's hard to even know what to say. I just feel like, John, you did a great job putting many of my thoughts into words, but I can say there's a lot of peace happening out there. It's very peaceful. Come back to Fargo and we have a lot of serious discussion going on in our community, not only regarding Native American, but the refugee population. And it's interesting that yesterday, with it being Indigenous Peoples Day, where I did attend also last evening parts of the event at the stage in celebration of Indigenous Peoples Day. And that, John, you referenced the boarding schools. There was considerable information shared last night about the boarding schools. I'd heard about them, but it's been a long time. And there's a lot of really disturbing and educational information in regard to those boarding schools and what actually happened. And I guess I put on Facebook a post that I laughed and I also wanted to cry at the same time as learning about some of what has happened to that population. But at the same time, on yesterday evening, I went to the City Commission meeting because I knew that there was going to be a conversation regarding refugees in the area, and there was a good presentation by Jessica Thomason from LSS. One thing I want to say is that I am extremely proud of all of our board members. and as the third year serving on the board for Fargo Public Schools, the information that we have gathered strategically and our commitment to educating all children, no matter where they come from, and advocating for the resources that we need. The meeting last night was very interesting because there were lots of heavy dynamics going on. And I'm not quite sure what the purpose of some of that conversation was last night. And certainly we talked about some of that at our City Park Schools meeting. But I would say every board member on Fargo Public Schools, and our administration, I am so proud of our commitment to educating the children that we have in our community.
Thank you.
It comes through all of the time. We have a very, very high regard for the students that we have educating in our community and the value that they add. Yes, I was out at Sacred Stone Camp on Saturday. I attended the inaugural celebration for Indigenous Peoples Day last night, and we have a GAC meeting on the 18th of October at 7:30 a.m., and I believe that concludes my report. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Rebecca. You have my report, and fortunately, I've heard from Anne Marie that the yellow highlighting has been accomplished. She's heard from everyone, unless you have any changes, but especially if you have anything you want to adjust in your schedule for the national convention in Denver, she gets on the phone bright and early tomorrow morning, so she needs to know that tonight. She'll be making our reservations for Denver tomorrow. My school liaison visits are set for in the next couple of weeks because I want to align them to special events that are in the schools regarding their cultural plans and activities. So that's all I have. Our next meeting date is October 25th. Anything else for the good of the order? We're adjourned. Thank you.